All right, welcome back to the channel. So we are talking about the biggest fight in all of boxing. Errol Spence Jr., Ether's Terence Crawford, says he'll treat Bud and your other favorite fighters like a tune-up, and that he refuses to just shut up and box. Let's talk about what Errol Spence Jr. had to say about Terence Crawford and where Terence Crawford stands in the welterweight division in this video. All right, welcome back. This is my absolute favorite subject to talk about in boxing. I'm talking about the kings of American boxing right now, two of them. One, Terence Crawford, the other, Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. running the great state of Texas, out of Dallas, making major pay-per-view shows, major deal, man. This kid is just absolutely blowing up, man. Just a tremendous soldier, man, in the war against BS boxing. You know what I'm saying? So always happy to do a video and talk about Errol Spence Jr. and what he has to say. And in this particular video, in the particular thing that I'm talking about, which I saw on Michael Benson's page on Twitter, definitely go check out Michael Benson out of the UK. A lot of really good information that he's always letting out. He basically shows, talks, and has this whole dialogue from Errol Spence Jr. And what Errol Spence Jr. starts talking about is how responds to Bob Arum saying that Errol Spence Jr. is what's holding up the fight between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. Just to back it up a little bit, the number one guy in all of boxing, we all know who he is. Never hear who he is, never hear him speak, but we know who he is. Al Heyman was supposedly met with Bob Arum, and Al Heyman is supposed to be, in the words of Bob Arum, amenable to the fight. But the thing that's holding up the fight is Errol Spence Jr., right? So Errol Spence Jr. is leaving comments talking about that particular stuff. He mentions how people have a lot of really great accomplishments inside the ring, but when you look what's going on outside the ring, it's not really there. So he's talking about the necessity to really take care of his money when he's going into this Terence Crawford fight. Terence Crawford is also, in this particular stream talking conversation saying that, he's been a champion since 2014, 7 straight years coming up, 3 different weight classes, and then he'll retire in the Hall of Fame. And I think he's 100% correct. But here's the thing. They both going to get paid any way it goes. I mean, let's just be honest. They're going to be paid either way it goes, right? This is not, for me, talking about this fight at this point is not about what Errol Spence Jr. is going to accomplish or what Terence Crawford is going to accomplish. Let's just be honest. They've already both accomplished a lot. They're both already $100 million fighters if other people will step up and fight them, right? Both of them have multiple $100 million fights. Terence Crawford has a $100 million fight against Manny Pacquiao. If Manny Pacquiao would man up, come to the Midwest, right? Give these guys an opportunity to sell some tickets, do some business with Asia. I'm sure that you'll see that there are cities in that Midwest middle portion of the United States that would show a tremendous amount of love to Terence Crawford if Manny Pacquiao would man up and fight those guys in that city. I don't care how, I'm from Chicago, right? And we talk a lot about how, different people in different areas have so many fans, and they have, their whole area locked down, right? So like you look at Gervonta Tank Davis and what he's doing in Baltimore, ain't no question who's running everything there, right? In D.C., no question who's the man in D.C. running everything in D.C. It's Gary Russell Jr., right? Maybe it could be guys like, Jared Hurd or whatever in some of the bigger weight classes, but you know what I mean? But when you look at Terence Crawford, man, because of how much he's done in his career, like he said, man, 7 straight years as a champion in 3 different weight divisions. Man, come on. This guy is just waiting for somebody to come around and say, look, man, let's put all this stuff to the nonsense. I'll pay for the fight. Let's make this fight happen, right? And that could be the individual consumer like myself, this buying on pay-per-view that says, look, man, I just want to see this great fight. And that's where Terence Crawford has to be with it in his mind when he says stuff like this. And it may not be stuff that, people want to hear, but it's true. You know what I mean? Like I don't care, Bob Arum, he's 90 years old, right? 90 years old. He's worth $300 million. How much more can the guy do, right? On his way out, I'm sure that this guy is going to want to see, a big, huge bang in the boxing division, in Top Rank to secure his legacy, right? So if you really think about it, there's not too much that they can do with their number one A-side fighter like Terence Crawford. They're going to eventually have to give Terence Crawford these other guys that they're trying to grow, like the guy that was signed by, these MTK Global fighters, or at least one of them is an MTK Global fighter. I think Josh Taylor, when he dissed me, was, yeah. But anyway, he's an MTK Global fighter. So, Terence Crawford can probably hook up with them. That's probably going to be a $100 million fight, right? Because Josh Taylor, as much as I don't like him, is a really exciting fight. It's a global fight. You know what I mean? It's I think that's a terrible way to use certain phrases, but it's a transatlantic fight, right? That's absolutely going to be big time money, man, for Terence Crawford, right? Then you can do the same, and then you can say Jose Ramirez, right? Jose Ramirez in LA and Terence Crawford. That's going to be a $100 million fight, man. There's going to be people out there in California with the money that are going to want to put that up. And why do I say that? Because of the tremendous track record that boxing had in the second half of 2020 last year. There's money out there for these fighters. So while we're talking about, who's responsible for this fight happening or not happening, let's just accept the fact that both of these guys have tremendous opportunities and they are going to get paid whether or not they fight each other. It's just incumbent on us as the boxing fans, the people that are going to pay for the fight, to say, hey, no, man, we know we'll pay for all these other things you got. It's just what it is. We will. But what we want right now, during this time where, we need national unity, right? Definitely national unity in the black boxing community, if not anywhere else. I mean, geez. Come on, man. We got a democratic, and I don't want to get into too much politics, but there should be a lot of money there for the development of black boxing in the United States. So, those two guys are going to make their money regardless, and I'm going to support them regardless. I know I'm paying for whatever they choose to do. But when Errol Spence Jr. starts saying things like, look, man, I'm not just going to shut up and box. I'm going to try to negotiate myself to the best possible payday, right? Whether that be things that are, on the, above or below the line. I know you guys aren't necessarily, big finance people, but, when I was growing up, they considered, you looked at things that were above the line and things that were below the line. And there's ways that you can say, hey, man, we're going to make money on this, on this fight this way, with A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But over here, it's element okay over here, right? Below the line. And we're going to try to figure out how to grow our name in the local community, how we can get, spread our name through the local bakeries, right? Maybe we get, sell some pastries, Errol Spence pastries the whole week of the fight, right? Who knows all the different ways that you can make, you can make bread, man. You can split it up. But got to make the actual fight for that to happen. And I do believe that is going to happen. But when Errol says, look, I look at all of these legends that are outside the sport of boxing, and how are they doing, right? Like I've walked in and I personally met guys like Hall of Famers like Tommy Hearns. How's he doing financially, right? How's he doing after that long career? How's Marvelous Marvin Hagler doing? How's Sugar Ray Leonard doing? They look like they're doing okay. But who's been checking for their bank accounts? Who's been checking to make sure that these guys are all right after all of these years and that they've put out there, in the sport of boxing? Who's going to make sure that, the kids of Joe Frazier, Jackie Frazier lied, and these people are getting paid and really still getting the fruits of the benefit of their labors, right? I don't think a lot of people are really thinking about that. And there's nothing wrong with Errol Spence Jr. thinking like that. I think that he should. And I think that is a testament to Al Heyman. I think, and that is, hey, man, sometimes it's got to be your family, it's got to be your people before the sport of boxing. It's your people, it's your crew, and bump everybody else. It's just got to be how it is sometimes. And Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. have that stance. Letitia Crawford, the sister, I'm going to do a video about her, and what she had to say about Errol Spence. You know, these are soldiers, man. Those are soldiers in the war for Terence Crawford's, prosperity. I don't have any beef whatsoever with them guys doing what they got to do to make sure that happens. But at the end of the day, we as boxing fans got to get together and convince these guys, look, like I said, I know you're going to get paid. At least you got several $100 million fights Errol Spence Jr. can have. Canelo, he might even fight Jermell. He could fight, it just goes on. Manny Pacquiao. And then again, I just keep saying it over and over again. We underestimate the value of Terence Crawford often vis-a-vis these other fighters that are held by guys like, the people that are representing him at MTK Global. But anyway, it is what it is. That's my thought about it. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.